The Unified School District of De Pere received its report card from the State Department of Public Instruction this year. It earned 5 stars, the highest grade among just a handful of districts in the state.
And those doing the work in the De Pere schools would say it's the result of a school system operating in sync. On Action 2 News at 4, we learned about the emphasis on English language arts in the elementary schools.
And right now we head back to school with a closer look at the higher level of learning at the middle and the high schools and what happens if a student doesn't make the grade.
By the time students hit middle school in De Pere,
you're just going to be using the distributor property.
the focus on mathematics multiplies.
We're learning about finding x in an equation, like what the answer to it would be.
So we're simplifying each side of the equation.
For 8th grade math teacher Ryan Schaefer,
I like to say I teach life lessons as well as math.
it means figuring out the steps to solve a problem in math
Go. No calculators. That's not solving mentally.
or in life.
Perseverance is a major concept that, I struggled with when I was younger. 8th graders still struggle with. So I think it's less about, it's a lot about the algebra. It's less about the algebra and more like, I've tried this. What can I maybe do differently now that I've struggled? I think that leads to solving any problem in life, not just math.
So like science class, like when you're trying to reword something and then you're confused, you have to use the problem solving skills to try to figure out how to reword it and find the correct way to say something.
Those core problem-solving concepts are adding up in the De Pere district, with state report cards giving a grade of 82.3 out of 100 for math achievement in De Pere schools, compared to just under 58 statewide.
What do you think we should use?
And it's critical thinking that continues as students move through the grades.
Today we're just doing an experiment with tracking copper through various experiments where, see how it reacts to certain things like acids, certain bases.
At the high school level, there are plenty of opportunities to accelerate. This chemistry class earns college credit, one of 21 advanced placement courses and 21 dual credit courses that are available for students. These classes feature elements of higher learning, critical thinking, with a hands-on approach.
It really helps me visualize what we're learning, just to see it happen in front of me.
Important options for students who shine.
So we didn't do anything wrong?
No, I think you'll be fine.
But when students struggle, teachers tell us at this level, just like in elementary schools, they continuously emphasize an atmosphere of asking for help. If students still need a nudge, teachers can pull them in during designated school day flex time, where students can finish tests or get reinforcement on certain concepts.
Any questions?
And the struggle isn't viewed as failure. Instead, it's seen as a necessary step in learning.
We want to give them problem-solving skills. We want them to know that they can solve a problem, that they can struggle and ask for help. A lot of great skills that aren't measured necessarily by a test.
Struggle, failure, problem solving, and resiliency. Staff at De Pere schools keep repeating those as part of the formula for success.
Yeah, really interesting. And tonight,